over to Jim Lampe for Agenda 21 program.
To stop this and fight this?
Bill Young, your commissioners, all the rails coming through, the commissioners and your local representatives here, your state congressman and your state senator.
Control of our waterways to the UN. I'm putting this together with the fish and wildlife, that's how they're gaining control. So have we given all of our waterways to the UN?
Not to my knowledge.
Jim, I think if you explain kind of how the light rail works, what they're trying to do, to some people that may not understand, it'll give them a real idea of what's going on right here in our backyard set, because it ties in with not only the downtown CP, the downtown Clearwater, but what they're doing with US 19 and Sunset Boulevard North. It would drive it home to everyone.
Okay. Basically, what happens with rail is, and one of the things I don't understand about the logic in these for rail, they say that we need a rail from St. Pete to Largo, Clearwater. Why don't they have a bus service doing that right now if there's so many people that need it? I don't get that. Anyway, see, what they're going to do with rail, they put in the rail line, they redevelop all the land around the rail line. The land is put into blocks of like 20 and 30 acres so that you can't buy that land. They forced you to go into the city where the only available real estate is. That real estate tends to get more expensive. As it gets more expensive, your parking disappears. You can't afford to have a car. You're dependent on the rail. You're living in a little apartment because that's all you can afford in the city, and they have complete control of you. And it's happened in Portland, Oregon, and in a bunch of other cities.
And then at the same, well, I guess a couple of points. Then at the same time, you have the Rural Act. So as people start thinking that they might move out to the rural areas, then the regulations are crunching down on the rural areas too. So that's something to be, I mean, you know, it's like pressing down and people try to pop up somewhere else. And they're gonna have pressure on everything. And then I do wanna also mention, I was speaking to J.R. Sanchez today, people may know, with Marco's office, and this UN Small Arms Treaty, of course, is, is another thing to have high on the radar. It's a UN Small Arms. Away the world rights to guns, so that it's not our government who is asking us to give up our guns. It'll be through the UN Small Arms Treaty.
Let's pass it. Everybody lets it pass. So after that, how are we going to be able to prevent any further going into this?
Keep it fast.
Good question.
What's the question? Light rail pass, which I'm sure there's going to be plenty of more people to let it pass. You know, what are you going to do after that in order for you to save yourself? If there's not going to be any chance in the rural areas, there's not going to be any chance in the city, pretty much, like what do you do?
Unknown.
Let
All right.
people. More food, get on. That's right.
Don't let it happen.
Start boxing yourself and protect yourself.
Go get information on when the UN Agenda 21. I've gone to that site and I got as far as chapter 5 before I started getting any information whatsoever, and then it wasn't really, it was like flowery information.
This lady mentioned Agenda 21 today.
Yeah, Agenda 21
There's
today.
freedom advocates, and there's a bunch of videos on YouTube. You just hit Agenda 21. Agenda 21 or property rights.
Don't they wish to reduce the population to about 80%?
Yes, they do want to reduce the population. There's too many people that we get in the way of the animals.
Hey, Jim, This is a prime example of what he's talking about in light rail. I run Carroll's Building Materials on 13th Avenue South. We have heavy rail, which brings an enormous amount of goods and services here to Pinellas County because we live on a peninsula for cheap. If you try to truck it in, it costs you 4 times as much. So let's say your hardscapes, a lot of your building materials, the Tampa Bay Times, every Saturday night alone, gets 75 rail cars. Those are 100-ton rail cars. Get 75 of them at least every Saturday night. Now, that goes right past my yard and around the backside of the St. Pete Times. If the light rail system is implemented here, what they plan to do is this. They're going to raise your sales tax 1%. We will have an 8% sales tax in Pinellas County. It will be the highest taxed county in the state of Florida. They're going to double the PSTA bus system. So they're going to tell you that it's going to be so much more energy efficient. There's going to be so much less emissions. You're going to have to drive a car to a bus terminal, take the bus to the light rail center, get on the rail that only connects downtown St. Petersburg with downtown Clearwater, and then when you get off the rail wherever you are, you're going to have to get back on a bus and drive somewhere on a bus and get off at a bus stop where you're ultimately going to have to take a car because nothing wants to build around a rail system. There's not going to be any restaurants or any shopping centers, okay? It's going to be mostly low-income housing around these areas. I don't know if anybody's, to give you a good idea, anybody ever ridden a trolley in Ybor City? I have one time in 10 years, and it was the most miserable experience of my life because it doesn't take you anywhere, okay? Same exact concept, except for not only are they going to raise your taxes, but then you're going to have to maintain it. Pinellas County's budget, I just ran for county commissioner, so I'm pretty familiar with this, is about $1.6 billion. To create this light rail system in here, if it came in under budget, which anywhere else you look, like he was talking about in Portland, Oregon, Raleigh, North Carolina, any of these other areas that have tried this program, it's come in 1.5 to 2 times the amount of the estimated total, $1.8 billion. Pinellas County's budget is 1.6 to run Pinellas County. So we're going to have a project that's going to be 1.5 to 2 times the amount of money. Then we're going to have to put the personnel in place, and we're going to have to maintain it. It's failed everywhere else. It's been the only place that has some sort of a working program is Raleigh, North Carolina, that it started out with somewhere around, I think, 27 miles of track. They stopped at 9.5. If they do this, the other thing that's going to happen is US 19. US 19's been under construction. I'm 33 years old since I was a kid. I can't remember US 19 not being under construction. They're getting ready to start the next 6 miles north of Sunset Point Road. If you go to the city of Clearwater, already has the implemented program, the satellite aerial views of what it's going to look like. What they're doing is as they lay this track in place, by going back to the beginning of this, if they lay this track, it's light rail, it's only going to carry human passengers. No goods will be able to traffic here because they're too heavy. It's only designed to carry people. If they do that, the roads are going to narrow. They're going to make US 19, there will be no more little stops and cutoffs to get off at traffic lights. It's going to be all elevated highway. And for that next 10 miles, and they're going to keep doing this, continuing up all the way to the north part of Florida, 10 miles at a time, keeping under construction. And when they construct these new roads, if you'll notice, the lines seem to be getting a lot tighter. There's not enough room to drive. There'll be no parking. They have it set up. You can see that the city of Clearwater already has it. They're big aerial shots. It's big shopping centers with a bunch of little apartment complexes along the backside of them, and there is 0.7 car spaces per apartment complex. Yep. Can't park, can't drive, got to ride the rail. Got to ride a rail that takes you nowhere. It's a grandiose plan that politicians have in place. Some of the politicians that are involved don't even realize that they're involved in it. Most of them have no idea. You can ask somebody about light rail, maybe some of you tonight. I've talked to 10 people about it today. They think it's the plan that Rick Scott shot down a year ago. There's nothing to do with that. This is real. This is right here in your backyard. You have got to contact your 7 county commissioners. Mr. Welch, the person I was running against, is spearheading this project. Okay? It's already begun because I just sent an email out yesterday. I went out and talked to the supervisor of CSX Track that does all this area here. They started 45 brand new rail cars lined up right down the track. I came out, I couldn't believe it. All of them had 100 tons of rock on them. They've already started laying the rock in place and replacing all the old rail ties so they can start laying the new rail. He told me verbatim, word of mouth, that this will happen in 5 years. Within 5 years, this is going to happen to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not quite sure where you said the light rail is gonna go. Is it gonna go where the roads are, where they're digging up now?
The light rail, the question was, I can repeat the question. The question, she asked me where it's gonna go. The light rail is gonna start downtown Clearwater, close, and I'm not gonna give you the exact avenue because I'm not exactly sure. It's gonna start downtown Clearwater, kind of by the truck. And it's gonna go, actually, my wife actually had a good point. This may have a lot to do with the Scientologists trying to connect downtown Clearwater with downtown St. Pete. And it's gonna run all the way through, clear up through downtown Clearwater. It's gonna basically follow a lot of the existing heavy rail.
But what I'm wondering is, they're digging up the roads. Is it gonna be on the road or is it gonna be overhead?
It's gonna be, some portions of it are gonna be elevated and some of it's gonna go along the existing track. They're gonna have to tear up a lot of existing track, kind of like the Rails and Trails project, except they're gonna put the light rail in. You can actually, if you just Google Pinellas County Light Rail, it'll show you the exact track of what they're gonna do. The elevations and all that, having all those details haven't been worked out. But for instance, if you, when they start negotiating for the track, for the cost of this thing, this plan will be in place before CSX ever agrees to actually sell them the track. So let's say they're gonna buy $500 million worth of track. The plan has been implemented, it's been signed, sealed, and delivered by our officials here in Pinellas County. Then they go to CSX and go, we want to buy this stretch of track. CSX is going to go, and they're already funded by the federal government. They've taken 500 rail cars off at a time. I couldn't get, because of coal, I couldn't get a rail car down here for like 2 months at one point, because if they take the cars off the track, well, the federal government will pay them for it, but that's another story. If they take the, I just lost my train of thought. If they take if they're in the process of doing it and they sign, seal, and deliver the package, then they go to CSX. Let's say that track was worth $500 million. CSX goes, you know what? We don't think we want to sell it. If you want to buy it, it's going to be $1.4 billion. They can do that, and because the plan has already been implemented and in place, they have no choice. They have to follow through. So you and me, the taxpayers here in Pinellas County, will foot this bill whether you want to or not. Less than 3% of the population rides public transportation today. You can't tell me that bus ridership is going to go through the roof because they built a light rail from here to there. Does anybody work in downtown Clearwater who lives here in St. Pete? I don't. Go up there. Wouldn't take a rail to get there. I like my truck. I drive my truck. And so does everybody else that comes here. Anybody go on vacation and rely on the rails unless you're going to downtown Manhattan? Anybody ever go anywhere and plan to ride a rail anywhere? There is no common sense when it comes to this. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Jim, but I know some about this. I'm not an expert on Agenda 21, but I can tell you exactly what he's talking about, how it fits right here, and there's other programs involved. So
Well, you're talking like it's much further along than I ever thought it might be.
this is the scary part. This hasn't even supposedly begun. But does anybody have any idea how much 750 tons of rock costs? It's an enormous amount of money. The money came from somewhere, and I can take it in my yard. It's lined up down the track, and they've got brand new trucks that are designed to ride along the side of this rail. They're riding right along the side of them too, laying the rock as it went along. This isn't a small little thing here. This is huge.
How has it been hidden so much?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is what I've physically seen with my own eyes and what actually came from this guy, because whether it's happened or not, I don't know if CSX is footing it because they know it's coming and they want to spruce the track and make it ready to go, but somebody somewhere has promised somebody that, because nobody drops that kind of dough on rock and the equipment and everything else. I mean, a rail car alone is worth probably $500,000, a rolling car, somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000 depending on what the car does. 50 brand new shiny ones just came off the showroom floor. They have a showroom floor. Sure they do. But excuse me?
Where are they at?
CSX track is mostly through the state.
I know where the track is at, but where are the cars going?
I don't know where they rolled through and come out. There's a big terminal in Tampa that disperses. The cars come from Georgia mostly. When they come from Georgia to here, they go to Tampa, and from there they flare off. If this is another thing which kind of hits close to home for me. If this light rail project begins, my company shuts down immediately. That's 40 people out of work that fast. Sir?
Yeah, I'm moving down here from Baltimore. I can tell you, it's quite a long trail. Not to mention all
We have Sacramento,
the game the system, and next thing you know,
Anybody ever uses it?
if
just like PSTA. PSTA is on track to lose somewhere around $13 million a year and somewhere around $15 million for the next 3 years. So what are they going to do? So T-Bard and PSTA don't lose all their money? They're going to add the penny for Pinellas, and they're going to make the PSTA bus system a part of the light rail system so that they can continue to fund those projects. Yes, ma'am.
Are we gonna have any vote on this?
That's the thing, is they were, Neil and they voted down on it. They wanted to connect Tampa to St. Petersburg, or Pinellas County to Hillsborough County via the Skyway, when they rebuilt the Skyway Bridge. Hillsborough County said absolutely not, and they required their bus system to come in under budget. We need public transportation, don't get me wrong, I agree with that. But we need to have something that's efficient. We need something that gets into the neighborhoods and gets old folks out of their house. Not make the little old lady that get the groceries they can't see anymore walk a mile and a quarter to a bus stop and stand in 110-degree heat. Manatee County has a fantastic system. They have the energy efficient wheelchair vans where they go and they pick people up all day long. If they had that would also cut down on the amount of EMS problems that we have when people have Medicaid, Medicare, and they call for a $600 bus or ambulance ride. That's a whole other story, but you have to have some sort of public transportation. But it has to be efficient, it has to be self-sustaining at some point, because if you just keep taking money, taxpayer dollars for it, once it fails, you still got to pay for it. You don't have a choice. It's going to let it sit there and rot. It's not going to happen. They're going to keep funding it, no matter what they have to do, how much money they have to take from you. They don't care at that point, because then they're covering their own ass. That's the end of my story.
I went to an Agenda 21 state convention back in June of 2001, and I know they had another one this year. But what I learned was very scary as far as I was concerned, because they showed us films of how they want to move us all into these small communities and take away our freedom to roam the country. And there's all sorts of treaties, but one, I know they had an influence on fishing, a big influence on fishing. Of course, they've got the 4 E's, which are education, economy, equity, and energy. You know? And the other day, something came on my email about a tax that the UN is trying to put on us. And I sent a message to my congressman and said, vote against this. That's the problem. They they try to put things through without consulting. And we all have to get in touch with our congressmen if we don't want this happening, and senators. Because there's just too much of the UN trying to take us over and make us a one-world government. That is one thing we don't need.
It's getting to the point now where you can't distinguish between the UN and our own government.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You cannot distinguish between the UN and our own government. And that's why all this stuff is government growth. All of it. We have to resist it.
The president signs on to a treaty, has to be ratified by the Senate. So you have to contact the senators. Rubio will probably back us up. I don't know about Nelson. People have to bombard him. The other big treaty they're talking about before the year ends is the Law of the Sea Treaty. If they sign that, all of this just slightly offshore, all of the wells out in the Gulf of Mexico, the oil wells, they get a royalty, goes to the United Nations to fund for other places. If that goes through, landlocked countries have to be given access to the ocean to have a port. So say a Switzerland could go to Italy and say, you have to give up a corridor of your nation to give us something to get a seaport. Then everyone will be entitled to access to the sea. So there's going to be all changes in national borders, fishing treaties where everything has to be shared. Really, really important is that treaty that gets shut down. Very bad for the U.S. So you hear anything about it, you got to bombard the senators. Let them know. Vote no on it.
Too bad you're not working for us.
Okay, we got time for one more question, comment.
I don't have anything to say, except if I were out on the street, I would not know one of you
We have no symbols from 9/12 groups. We have no symbols for the freedom that we stand here tonight and want. And we cannot go to our congressmen and our senators and say we want. I am one individual. You are one individual.
Then
We need a collective group like.
Get a group and form a group and
Excuse
do
me?
something. You need to form a
And
group.
it needs to start right here. I came
Well,
from
there's-
Clearwater.
Ask everybody to stand up.
I came from Clearwater because I'm interested in this. This has got to be something that everybody cares about. Come up with.
How about all the Republicans, St. Petersburg people stand up?
No, all of the South, no, all Tea Party people stand up that are here.
So there's a group
We
right
are
there.
the Tea Party. Join us.
Join the Tea Party.
I would like to make a recommendation. I would like to buy, part of our sponsorship, a pin that says no to the UN, so that when I see you in the grocery line or downtown St. Petersburg someplace, I see your pin and I'm going like, yes, you are one of me.
You can afford groceries still?
Not really. I mean, come on. It's gonna take everybody displaying something.
Okay,
Or
thank
put
you.
to bed.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one last question, this lady. Would you stand up, please?
You said, let me see, I got my notes. You said that they're going to take over all our government. So if they're going to, their thing is to take over all our government, why are the presidents like Obama and Bush, why are they working towards this? Why are they?
That is a good question, and I have my own answer, and you need to figure out that for yourself. I don't want to lead you,
Because
but
they're
you can figure it
communists.
out. Bush is doing it, Clinton's doing it, Obama's doing
Because
it.
they're communists.
It's called the Bilderbergs.
What about,
Thank you for coming. I appreciate your time.
I just wanted to finish by talking about, there's a lot of concern about what to look for next with light rail. And, they can't do it without the 1% sales tax increase. I just want to quickly tell you that you may or may not be aware that up in Georgia, up in Atlanta, recently in the election, there was an effort put forth by the politicians up there because they were trying to get light rail through and they could not get the main county there in Atlanta to vote for it, the citizens, for the 1% sales tax increase. So they merged together different transportation systems around. They tried to merge together 11 and then get that 1% sales tax passed by the citizens of the 11 to try to get just a simple majority so that they could drag everybody along, and it failed. And that was huge. And so what we just saw, and I mean, it's just, is there was a copycat type of a situation that was starting to take off, T-Barton and Hart. And I guess you probably heard that that's fallen through, and that's a good thing, in my opinion. So what we're seeing is 2 or 3 different attempts, 2 or 3 different strategies playing out. How about HB 865? Who remembers that? We fought HB 865 last summer, and we beat that. HB 865 was a way to try to convince the voters of Pinellas County that putting in another 1% sales tax was going to be a good thing, that it was going to reduce your property taxes. It was not true. Now, we can debate that all day long, but the point is, HB 865, the governor vetoed it. So now the card they have left is the 1% sales tax, and you do have a vote on that. That's a referendum. And you're going to start hearing now, in this, since the election's over, it's going to, and now that we have these new county commissioners, guys, it's going to fly. They're going to be trying to, they have worked for over a year with this alternative analysis, and they're going to be trying to talk us all into passing an additional 1% sales tax for light. They're not going to say it's for light rail, by the way. That is not going to be mentioned. It's going to be for enhancement of transportation. That's what it's going to be called. And no tax for tracks. You've seen the signs. That's all the Tea Party that's doing that. Please understand what's going on. We are doing our best, but it's up to the public to vote no on a 1% sales tax, because without the money, it's not going to work.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Jim. appreciate everyone being here and all your good questions, and now we're gonna move on.